Howdy, everybody. Welcome to Wrestle Recap. 21 episodes in. My name is still Justin Tate.
I think my name is Michelle Tate.
It's up for debate. Yes.
That rhymed.
Yeah, I know. And we are the only rhyming brother-sister duo that takes you on the journey of wrestling pay-per-view by pay-per-view throughout the decades.
And we have a really great time doing it, Justin.
We do, and we are headed back down south because our last episode was WrestleMania 5, and that was really long. And now we're headed back to the safer, shorter grounds of NWA WCW.
Let's just jump in that time machine right now because I love this show and I want to talk about it.
Oh, dang. All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Wow. I didn't even get a pre-flight safety announcement. I don't appreciate that. These flight attendants.
Your oxygen mask will drop, but the bag may not inflate. There we go.
Oh, okay, good. That always makes me feel so much better.
I never knew why. I'm like, why? I mean, I know oxygen is flowing, but I don't know that because the bag is not inflating and physics would suggest that it should.
Well, by the time you figure out that the bag's not inflating, if the oxygen isn't on, you're already passed out.
Yeah, you're dead by then.
Yeah.
So that's funny. All right. Well, as I said, I'm so excited to talk about the show. I really enjoyed it. I know you did too. So we are talking about NWA/WCW WrestleWar 1989, the Music City Showdown.
That's my banjo.
I was about to say, it's the country music. See, I thought the Music City was Odessa because they have the Music City Mall.
Oh my God.
So I just figured.
Did you know? Okay, so yes, people not from here, the town that's 20 miles away from us has a mall called Music City Mall, and they actually used to have musicians playing there like every weekend, and it was really cool. The mall I worked at in college in the Dallas area later it was bought out and renamed Music City Mall by the same company that owned the one here.
So every city is a music city as long as that mall is there?
Apparently, but it tanked that mall so hard that it's, somebody else bought it and changed it back to its old name, but it's still pretty much a dead mall.
Gotcha. I love dead malls. You and I both. I mean, they make us sad, but now I gotta go watch some dead mall videos
I know.
tonight. So this excellent show took place on May 7th, 1989, and it is in Nashville, Tennessee, the real Music City, and it happened at Nashville Municipal Auditorium, still standing this day and even hosts several pay-per-views, in the current day. So pretty cool. The attendance was a little lower than we've been used to recently. It's about 5,200. But our commentators are Mr. JR Jim Ross and Bob Caudle.
We keep getting these different combinations of commentary on NWA shows. You never know what you're going to get.
I like Bob backstage with the interviews better.
I just
do. But Justin, do you know the number one song in the U.S. on this day? Because I thought I knew it, and then it was a totally different version.
Well, in that case, I will guess La Bamba.
La Bamba?
I don't know.
La Bamba. No, it is I'll Be There For You by Mr. Vaughn.
These 5 words I swear to you.
I need a writer.
I gotta say, I don't know that song.
No, I don't either. So number one, if you look at the lyrics, real depressing. And then number two, I realized that it was not Bon Jovi, but I thought it was going to be the Friends theme song.
Oh, God.
I'll be there for you. I mean, it makes sense to me.
I think just by singing that song, the show just automatically got not funny.
Fun fact, Justin and I both do not like the show Friends. We don't think it's funny. Our sister loves it. I'm sorry. I don't think it's funny.
I don't understand the love for that show at all.
But I don't understand the love for The Office.
Well, you can go home. You can go home.
Well, I'm sorry I don't have a penis because every man loves The Office and every woman's like, what? Anyway, but yeah, so let's get into the background.
That was one of the first things my wife and I bonded over, actually, Was
The Office?
Yeah, she liked The Office.
I think she was lying to you just to impress you. She's gonna tell you one day on like your 10th anniversary, I don't really like The Office. I
Yeah,
just wanted you to
right.
think I was
Whatever.
cool.
All right, let's get to the background of this show. This is the third pay-per-view since Ted Turner took ownership of the company, and the second pay-per-view since Ric Flair became booker of the company. And one thing we haven't really mentioned before, but the guy overseeing the company as a whole at this time was a guy by the name of Jim Herd. And you might hear horror stories about Jim Herd as the head of WCW. What's the word? He sucked. So
Ooh.
if we might bring him up from time to time, but he was not a wrestling guy. He was an executive guy who was brought in to oversee this thing. So
Ew.
yeah. Now, as we go through this pay-per-view, there's a lot of new talent in the company that we haven't seen before this pay-per-view. So, maybe this is an effort to kind of freshen up what the fans are seeing on TV every week, but I really appreciated it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, a lot of these guys I haven't heard of ever. It's not like I just, haven't seen them yet on NWA or WCW. They were brand new to me. So,
Yeah.
but Justin, before we go any further, we need some
Bang.
wrestle
There's
stats.
some wrestle
Bam.
stats. Let's talk birthdays. I love birthdays. Today,
Me
we have a
too.
birthday. Norio Tatino of the Jumping
Bless you.
Bomb Angels turns 59 years old. How about that?
That's it. I mean, she could still wrestle technically.
Yeah,
Fabulous
I know,
Moolah was wrestling till she was like 80.
Yeah, right. On Tuesday the 3rd, Kareem Muhammad, who we saw way back on an old Starrcade, would have turned 72 years old. On this Thursday, the 5th, Dynamite Kid would have turned 66 years old. And also this Thursday is the 73rd birthday of one Larry Zbyszko. So happy birthday to Larry Zbyszko.
Oh.
And this coming Saturday the 7th would have been the 65th birthday of Ravishing Rick Rude. So those are your birthdays for this week. And let's go on into the normal wrestle stats. The average age of wrestlers on this pay-per-view, 31 years old. The youngest is Doug Gilbert at the age of 20. Think back to when you were 20 and all of a sudden you're on a wrestling pay-per-view.
That's how like Julia Hart feels, I bet.
Right.
because
Or
she's
like
a
that
baby.
Nick Wayne.
Yeah, he's even smaller. When I saw him in Vegas for Double or Nothing, it was so funny because he's like walking throughout the casino, but he's not allowed on the casino floor because he's not 21. And so I was like on the casino, I was waving to him like, oh wait, he can't come over here and talk to me because he's a minor.
Conversely, I don't think Doug Gilbert had his mom at every show. So
Right.
that's really got to suck for that kid. Like he's out on the road, he's gotten some money, some TV exposure, and his mom's at every show.
And there's no reason for her to be on TV
No,
at all,
no.
but I digress.
The oldest one on this show at 47 years old is the Iron Sheik. He's still going.
Still going.
All right. So
I'm still standing. There we go.
not yet. Average age of all the wrestlers we've covered on Wrestle Recap who are still living, 69 years old. No change there. The youngest that is still alive, well, it's Doug Gilbert, who's only 55 years old today.
Oh my gosh.
It's just crazy.
That's not much older than you.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, hang on. Hang on. We need to send you to remedial math. But average age of death for all wrestlers we've covered is 61 years old. There's no change there. But here's the big important number, the one where we get to sing and dance if it's above 50%. Out of the 194 wrestlers we have covered on Wrestle Recap, 112 of them are still alive for a percentage of 57.73%. We need a sound cue.
We're still standing. We're standing.
Oh, yeah, and it feels so good. So let's get on into the show itself. Tell us what we're going to see when we bring this up on the Peacock machine.
The Peacock Machine. Well, we see a bluish purplish background with squares zooming from the right of the screen to the left. And since this is in Nashville, the subtitle is Music City Showdown. And we have some generic country music playing, of course. And then we see pictures of various wrestlers who are appearing tonight. Kevin Sullivan, The First Family, Sting, the Iron Sheik, the Oak Ridge Boys. Wait, what? The Oak Ridge Boys.
Yeah.
This is already weird. But I told you I was looking forward to the weird shit era. Starts with the Oak Ridge Boys.
I thought I sat on my remote and put it on like the 80s version of CMT.
Hey, I mean, I guess they were popular, but anyway, we get the WrestleWar 89 logo with a banjo under it. Yeehaw. But honestly, this whole intro with the squares and like the pictures remind me of like Saved by the Bell or like the sitcoms of the early 90s where it's like they like pause and freeze, look at the camera and smile and it has their name. That's what it reminded me of.
It's so weird. I've seen so many videos on TikTok lately of people like doing different things as if they were a sitcom intro from the 80s and 90s. And that's exactly what they're doing. Like it'll be somebody like scrubbing their car and then they see the camera, oh, hey.
I've seen a Full House one that's been really popular lately. Oh my gosh, we should make one on Thanksgiving. That'd be so much fun. So anyway, to the arena we go, and there are some fancy flashing lights over the ring as Jim Ross and Bob Caudle welcome us to the show. A sign in the crowd says, NWA, we wrestle. Well, like, I would certainly hope so because I don't know what the hell's going on if that's not what they're doing.
Can you imagine buying this pay-per-view and be like, what in the hell? They're wrestling, Jim. What are they doing?
Right. Well, they toss us to ring announcer Gary Michael Capetta. Now, the ring is full of various members of the United States military holding various flags, and in front of them stand the Oak Ridge Boys. And like, for those of you who don't know, like I had to mega do my research. Like the Oak Ridge Boys were like the country version of One Direction, but for old people. Not old people now, old people then.
If you know that old song, Elvira, that's the Oak Ridge Boys.
I don't even know that song, and I love Elvira.
Oh, okay.
Are they talking about the Elvira?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, how do I not know this?
No.
Anyway, 3 of them look like they grew up in the country, like burly, bearded men who look like they could, chop the wood to tan the hide of a bear and killed it with their bare hands. And then the 4th guy, this guy just kind of looks like a stock trader off Wall Street, which I'm fine. I like the random metrosexual. There's always got to be one in the band. That's
right,
fine.
Of course.
Yes. Well, otherwise, it's a beautiful a cappella rendition of the national anthem. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, but that might be my favorite rendition of it we've heard on any pay-per-view so far. Is really pretty.
I agree with you, but Justin,
yes,
they should have gotten rockapella. They should have gotten Do It Rockapella.
They should have.
Fun fact, Justin Tate used to be their tour manager, like the Carmen Sandiego, the Folgers Rockapella. Tell us about it.
I would go from city to city and state to state with the guys and take care of the travel and all that good stuff, planning the travel. And then when we got to the show each night, just making sure everything went like it was supposed to do and we got paid. And yes, I heard the Carmen Sandiego song and the Folger song every single night for a long time.
But it never got old, did it?
It never ever did. No.
So
gosh, that was a long time ago. I think that was almost 20 years ago.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I did that from like 2006 to 2007.
I just felt like you did it for so much longer.
Yeah.
But you're still pretty good friends with like everyone, right? Like y'all are Facebook friends and stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And I mean, trade a couple birthday messages every year and that's about it. But I haven't seen them in a while. I think last time I saw them was like 2015 or so. I went to their Christmas show in Las Vegas when I had just moved there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think my last show to see them was in like Bee Cave, like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Bee Cave is where the Undertaker lives.
That's
It's right out. It's like a really rich suburb of Austin. Very fancy. But anyways, yeah, Justin is famous. So let's get into the first singles match, brother.
Let's do it. And I want to mention too that we after that national anthem, we go back to Jim Ross and he says that the Oak Ridge Boys are going to be in concert later. But here's the thing. He announces one of the 2 changes to tonight's card. So apparently the United States Tag Team Championship match was supposed to be a hair versus hair match. But the NWA board stepped in and said that Eddie Gilbert and Kevin Sullivan must settle their personal differences on their own time. And like this was just odd to me.
Yes, what is the real story? Because I feel we're not getting it, and I hoped you would know because that's just a really weird thing to change at last second.
Yeah. And I don't know what the story is behind it. Like, I don't know if they just thought, oh, this was a dumb idea or what. I have no idea.
Yeah, it was definitely strange, and I heard them say something about the NWA board, but all I heard was board, and I was like, I thought they were talking about, like, the state commissioner board. I was
Oh,
like, "Why would the state care?" I was like,
yeah.
"This is so strange."
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Well,
let's
that's
get
weird.
into it. Our first singles match of the evening. It is young little Doug Gilbert that we talked about earlier with his brother Eddie Gilbert versus the Great Muta with Gary Hart. Now, we have not seen either of these guys on pay per view before. One of them a lot more legendary than the other, I think is fair to say.
Yeah, Doug is a legend, man.
So let's get into it. Doug Gilbert, born on February 5th, 1969, like we said earlier, 55 years old today, 20 years old on this pay per view. And the final pay per view we're going to see him on is the WWF Royal Rumble 1996 in a very random appearance. Real name, Douglas Gilbert, easy enough, son of Tommy Gilbert and brother of Eddie Gilbert. So a big wrestling family there. Get this, he was an 11-time champion in the USWA and in the early 90s toured Japan under a Freddy Krueger gimmick. And to that, I only have one thing to say.
I
The hat is attached.
was hoping. I was hoping. That's awesome. No, because you told me back during that episode, you're like, there really was like a Freddy Krueger gimmick dude, and now we're here.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. On the other side of the ring, we have the Great Muta. I'm so excited to see more of him, and we are going to see more of him. He was born December 23rd, 1962, so he's got a birthday coming up. 61 years old today, so not that old. On this pay-per-view, he's 26, and the last pay-per-view we'll see him wrestle on, WCW Fall Brawl 2000. So we're going to see him for a while. Real name Keiji Muto, which he would also wrestle under that name, like as himself. And then Great Muta was kind of like the evil version of him, which is kind of cool, almost like the Bray Wyatt Fiend thing, but way before that.
Yes.
He's honestly one of the most influential Japanese wrestlers of all time, both in and out of the ring. In fact, he was the president of All Japan Pro Wrestling from 2002 to 2013. But here's the weird thing. Even though he appeared in WCW, TNA, ROH, all over Japan, the NWA, he never once had a match in a WWE ring.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know, but it's so surprising. Out of all the people we've seen, at least just have one match there, maybe even just on a house show. Apparently, it never happened for Great Muta.
How strange. I blame Vince.
Yeah. That's probably fair. Yeah. So let's get into the match itself. Now that we've run through all of that, guess what? This is not the match that was originally announced and scheduled.
No, it wasn't.
This was supposed to be the Great Muta versus Junkyard Dog, but on the day of the show, Junkyard Dog couldn't make it, so they scrambled and put young little Doug Gilbert in this spot.
Yeah, because even in that beginning Saved by the Bell package, there was a picture of Junkyard Dog.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of surprised they didn't cut that, but I'm guessing back then it wasn't as easy to cut something and then get them the file and, you know. But I was just thinking, like, was it just something like travel issues or it wasn't anything more dramatic than that, right? Because I always assume the worst.
I don't know. I would like to assume travel issues, but they also didn't say that on the show. So the fact that they didn't say why kind of makes me wonder if it was something else, but I don't know.
I just assume you know everything.
Well, I mean, almost everything.
It's true.
But I'll let you know when I don't. Like I don't know what match is next. Oh wait, we're doing this one. Doug Gilbert already in the ring when we go to the ring with no entrance, but also in the ring is referee Nick Patrick, who we will see in WCW until its dying day, and a little bit in the WWE as well. He actually, I believe, towards the end of 1989, Tommy Young retires, and Nick Patrick becomes the head referee for WCW.
Well, that's cool. Excellent.
Yeah, and a little bit of trivia for you. Do you know who his dad is?
Oh, Nick Patrick. No, I was trying to think of it, but I'm like, I don't even know the right age bracket to guess.
So his dad is the assassin from the first
Wait, number
NWA
one or
Star
number
Painted
two?
Watch. There's Assassin 1 and Assassin 2. Assassin 2 was Hercules. Assassin 1 was Jody Hamilton, the father of Nick Patrick.
Holy moly. But he's not Russian number one and not Russian number
No,
two.
different assassins. There's a lot of
Okay,
assassinations
yeah.
going on.
And he's not a conquistador.
No, not a
So.
conquistador. No, and he's not the executioner from WrestleMania 1. Yes.
No.
So we
That's
hear
cool.
thunder and music, and that tells us, of course, that an evil Asian person is coming. And the entrance lights up with sparklers. Can you believe that? We got like pyro, or kind of pyro, but
yeah.
it's pyro. And we see the arrival of the great Muda, who is at this time undefeated in the NWA.
Yes, we actually got to see the great Muda wrestle Sting recently, like on AEW within the past year, and he looked exactly the same. Oh wait, he wears a mask.
What? No.
Why are you making a face like they didn't wrestle?
What?
You're making a face at me like, what? Great Muda wrestled Sting on AEW?
I don't remember this at all.
He did, didn't he?
I have no
remember
idea.
this.
You're the one making the class. I don't know.
I'm about to Google this
Oh,
right
Lord.
now.
All right.
Great Muda Sting AEW. Oh, dang. He saved Sting. He came out and saved him. That's
Okay.
what happened.
He saved him. Okay.
Yeah, that's
right.
what happened. But yeah, I mean, he looked great. I mean, his little facial hair is a little gray, but other than that, he looks totally the same with that mask.
Okay. Well, I'm glad we figured it out.
Yes. I thought I was going crazy for half a second.
Well, let's talk about the look of the arena here. I always love doing this. I think that this is the best that an NWA arena has looked so far.
Mm-hmm.
We have the blue and yellow turnbuckle pads, which to me is just like classic WCW, especially the yellow ones. Blue, yellow, and white ring ropes. And they finally got rid of that neon green ring skirt that had that weird AWA looking logo on it. Instead, they have this blank blue tarp.
It's like they went and got it at Big Five Sports right before the show. And they were like, let's just lay this out. It'll be fine.
Yeah, and they should have ironed it. It was really wrinkly. But anyway, I'm picking nits here. But the canvas is also that darker blue that I really dig. I like the look of that. And the arena lighting. Holy crap, y'all. Everything's lit up and it looks really good. It's like they're really trying to compete with the WWF here, and I completely dig it.
Oh yeah, it just changes the whole vibe when you've got like a bright arena, you know. It makes it more energetic. Obviously, the people in the crowd, you know, they're not going to get sleepy or anything, but it does look really good. But at the beginning of this match in particular, their arena looked a little empty, and I don't know if people were just getting their snacks or if the camera quality just wasn't good enough for me to see humans in seats, you know?
You know what it was? A lot of people offered to go buy Doug Gilbert a beer since he couldn't buy one yet.
That's what they were in line at concessions.
That's right. They were going to get him all sorts of messed up. But Muda gets in the ring. He's doing some sort of ceremonial posing and such. But Gilbert tries to sneak attack to get the advantage, which doesn't work because Muda just throws a quick sidekick like he's brushing off a fly and then continues his ceremony like completely uninterrupted. It's so great.
Yes, and this is the first time we see the green mist.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's inspired so many wrestlers to do the same since. And so it's really cool. His tongue, of course, is super green after. He looks like Luchasaurus.
Yeah, I was gonna say his tongue might be green. He might have been making out with George the Animal Steel.
No.
There's a visual. Sleep well, kids.
Ew. Well, I really like Muda's style. You know, it's something we haven't seen before on any of these pay-per-views. It's very martial arts inspired. The way he moves really reminds me of Kino in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze.
Yes.
I know I talk about that movie a lot, but that and Three Ninjas, those are my jam. But that's kind of how he moves. And Bob even mentions on commentary that the great Muda is a master at 7 different forms of martial arts. So that's pretty cool. And Justin, didn't you take taekwondo? Was that it? Karate?
I did, and I sucked.
Did you? Was it hard?
Yeah. I mean, you got to understand, like, I'm a pretty slight guy as an adult, but as a kid, I was also very slight. And I was not a big kid. And once a week, we had to throw on the pads, like the gloves and the kick pads and the foot gear and all that. And they would have us spar. And the idea of sparring is you don't really make too much contact. It's just to do the moves in real time. But of course, you tell kids, hey, put on this gear and beat the crap out of each other, they're gonna do it. And so every week for like several years, I just got my ass kicked every week.
Well, dang, why didn't you quit like 1 year in?
Because if I quit, I was gonna have to find something else to do. But
And that's
I
how,
eventually quit to go do theater, and that's what became like my life for 20 plus years.
right. Well, I always thought you were super like cool for doing taekwondo. I wanted to do it. And I feel like that was definitely a hobby of the 90s because of
Yes.
the movies like Three Ninjas and all of that. Like every kid wanted to do it, but now you don't hear about it as much.
No, you really don't. And it's almost more like I hear a lot about like women taking it for self-defense, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
And like Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
right, exactly. So Great Muta, he pulls off a body press over the top rope onto Doug Gilbert, which was that shocked me. Like that's impressive on its own, but pretty rare for those days to see a move like that. Beyond that, not really a long match here. Great Muta, he hits the moonsault from the top rope and it's over. And then afterwards, Muta sprays the red mist in the air before his music plays after the match. So I think that this is the first time in NWA that we've seen the winner's music play after the match. And I think they're really making some good moves here.
Oh, me too, because I mean, that's something that's going to carry on now into, it's in 2024. That's what happens. You get your music as soon as you win,
Yeah.
But hey, how do you get that red mist in there? Because the green made sense. I was like, okay, he was holding it in his mouth that whole time. How do you put the red one in there?
He drank a lot of Kool-Aid and
No.
then after the match, horked it up. And just
Hork. Barf.
barf.
Was it like a capsule?
No, well, I mean, honestly, what it can be sometimes is just like some red food coloring, and like guys would even sometimes put it in a condom if they needed to bite into
Ew,
it. But
yeah.
something to hold it that you just and it's done.
Well, his tongue was like black after that because he had the green tongue first and then the red, and it was it looked like that Pepto Bismol tongue. You know what I'm
Well,
talking about?
yeah, no, I know. Well, the Great Muta wins that match in just 3 minutes and 16 seconds. And we go backstage to our interviewer, Lance Russell, which
Oh,
was
snap.
such a treat to see Lance Russell pop up. For those who don't know him, Lance Russell is considered one of the greatest wrestling announcers of all time, really working down in the South. He started his wrestling career in 1959. If you can imagine the matches that this guy has seen and called. And he's actually credited with giving Jerry Lawler his start in the business. So he's been around forever. Now, this would be the start of his WCW career, which lasted several years. And old Lance Russell's here with Ric Flair, who says that tonight he's got the style and profile like never before. And Flair tells Ricky Steamboat, you're the greatest wrestler on the face of the earth. But to be the man, you gotta beat the man, and I'm the man. And that takes us to the second match on this show.
Yeah, we got Butch Reed versus Ranger Ross.
Oh?
That was the name that I was like, I've never heard of that in my life. Well, we last saw Butch Reed on the Chi-Town Rumble just this year. He is 34 on this pay-per-view. And then Ranger Ross, let's talk about him a little bit. So he was born in July of 1959, so he's 65 today, but he's only 29 on this pay-per-view, so he's just a baby.
Just a
But
baby.
the last pay-per-view we will see him wrestle on is the WCW Great American Bash in 1989 later this year. So, we'll get into why later, a little bit. His real name is Robert Lee Ross Jr., and before getting into wrestling, he was actually a real member of the U.S. Army for 8 years.
Mm.
Thank you for your service. So here's something crazy. After leaving wrestling, he became a private investigator. Cool.
Mhm.
But in 1996, he was arrested and formally charged with bank robbery as the motorcycle bandit.
Oh, does
This
he
sounds
know
like
the
a
wet bandits
movie.
or the sticky bandits from Home Alone?
Oh, I hope he's their third. They're a thruple.
He's the
And
getaway guy.
exactly. Well, he wasn't very good because they never got away.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, an unidentified man robbed a bank in Ackworth, Georgia, and escaped on a Honda motorcycle. And they found out who he was, and he served 3.5 years out of an 8-year prison sentence.
Oy.
What? What is happening?
I
Well,
don't even, this almost sounds fake, but I know it's not.
it does sound fake. It sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, here's a joke. Only it's not a joke, it's real. What does a former army trooper, a former professional wrestler, a former private investigator, and a former bank robber do these days?
Politician?
He's a preacher.
Oh, close.
Close, close. He's with Brother Love. I love you. No, I will not quote him. No.
You've already done it once. It's like a sickness. You talk about how I get this honky tonk man sickness infecting me. You're gonna have brother love just flowing through you, and you're gonna be telling people whenever you run into him, "I love you."
I don't want any brother love in me. That's nasty.
Well, getting into the match here, we get dubbed music for Butch Reed, but Ranger Ross is led to the ring by Marines, but he was in the Army, so that's a choice.
Yeah, because thank you. I actually had to Google if he was actually in the military because of this. Because you think he would have corrected this. Like Army guys or Air Force guys, they're all very proud of their branch and they
Right.
don't want to be misrepresented. But I bet Butch Reed is feeling kind of dumb because you've got this awesome veteran. He's like, I was in the rodeo. Like, it's kind of a lamer background for him.
Yeah. Well, Ranger Ross gets in the ring and he rips off those tearaway camouflage pants and swivels his hips. Come on, man. Rick Rude has cornered the market on swiveling your hips.
Yeah. I mean, between Ranger Ross, Rick Rude, and Brutus Beefcake, I am shocked that Vince never created some sort of like wrestling mail review strip show in Vegas. Like, like that, had that random restaurant in New York. Like, why wouldn't he do that? And like, he probably would have had Brother Love as the host.
What?
Can you
I
imagine?
love butts. Well, they
Yeah, can you-
did at one point buy a casino in Las Vegas.
I vaguely remember that. Do you know what casino that is today?
So it's been torn down since then. It
Oh.
was imploded, but it was the Debbie Reynolds Hotel and Casino, and like they bought the whole thing, and you can actually find concept drawings on the internet for what they were going to do with it, and have like live matches happen there, maybe even TV
Wow.
tapings happen there, and it never all worked out. So they sold it away to somebody else, and then it was imploded within the past like 10, 15 years or so.
That's wild. I have always said I am shocked that there's not a WWE slot machine.
Right?
Right, because now there's a big NFL one and you get to like pick your team and like the whole machine is themed with your team.
Huh.
But like how is there not a wrestling like the Rhea Ripley bonus? Or
Right.
something? I don't know.
That would be pretty cool. Well,
Yeah.
during this match, Teddy Long comes down to ringside. Now, we've seen Teddy Long as a referee many times, but at Clash of the Champions 6, Teddy pulled a fast count, allowing the Varsity Club to win their match. So in storyline, the NWA relieved Teddy of his referee duties, but here he's at ringside flashing his visitor pass that somebody gave him and taking notes on the match. And I'd like to think that his notes say, "Player, I'm putting you in a match with The Undertaker."
Yeah, they say like we maintain that he is not on the payroll. Like what are they setting up here? What's Teddy gonna do?
We shall see. We shall see.
Oh, I hate when you won't tell me. Very annoying.
I have to build up the suspense.
Well, text me later.
I lost your number. I'm sorry. Butch Reed has a sleeper on Ranger Ross while they're down on the mat. But Butch keeps putting his foot on the rope for quote unquote leverage. but he's barely touching the rope. Like the whole leverage from the ropes thing is already dumb enough, but this was just like egregious.
Fully agree. You know how I feel about the leverage thing, the physics of this.
Yeah.
It really irks me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this was just dumb. Now, outside of the ring, we got another shot of Teddy Long, and a fan sticks up 2 fingers to give Teddy bunny ears. And again, I asked, like I did on a previous episode, how in human history were we ever this unfunny?
That's so rude. I was so excited to see this because we had just talked about it, and I realized I think the bunny ears is like the prehistoric version of photobombing. Because think about it, like now you photobomb people, and like some people get really, really mad at photobombers. I think it's funny. I will always think it's funny.
Bunny, can we just agree that bunny ears going away would not harm society?
I mean, it wouldn't harm society, but we'd lose a piece of nostalgia.
Fine, we'll keep him. Ranger
There we
Ross,
go.
I'm watching him in this match, and he's really not bad in the ring. He's not a superstar, but he's not bad. He just doesn't seem like a threat to Butch Reed whatsoever.
No, he looks kind of small, and I don't know if this is even going to make sense how to like vocalize this outside of my head, but he just kind of seems more like a character than a wrestler. If that
Hmm.
makes any sense. Like it's like he goes through the moves, but we're supposed to be impressed with his character, not his size, not his moves, not his, like I
It's
don't
just
know.
the fact that he's an army guy.
I think so. Like that he really did
Yeah.
serve in the US military. I think we were supposed to latch on to that a little more than everyone did,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that makes sense. Well, the pin comes out of nowhere here, like we've talked about happens sometimes in the NWA, to the point that I thought it was a 2 count until the bell rang, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. Butch Reed, he won that thing in 6 minutes and 58 seconds. It was not surprising at all. I mean, the match happened the way I thought it would happen. Do you
Yeah.
agree with that?
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, Ranger Ross got kind of some of his little shine spots in there to show off a little, but Reed just dominated him.
Yeah, and I was okay with this match being on here. It wasn't one of those I was like, "Oh, why was that on this show?" It
Yeah,
was fun to see someone brand new.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Lance Russell is backstage with United States champion Lex Luger, who says this is a showcase and it's put up or shut up time. No one ever says that anymore. Lex tells Michael Hayes, "You don't got what it takes to take what I've got."
Ooh,
Whoa, good
I
line,
like that.
dude. Yeah. Well, this is also where we see Luger's tick of sorts, where in his interviews, he does a lot of pointing at the camera, which remember, I counted Dusty Rhodes at one time. He did like 114 points,
Yeah.
but he points a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, which is worse, Lex Luger pointing at the camera or Shawn Michaels tugging at his waistband?
Oh boy. Well, and the thing is, like Lex would do the thing too, where he would like point at the camera, and then while he was talking, he would like draw a line sometimes as well.
Yeah.
It's like,
He's like a
where,
weatherman.
like, where's your head? Where's your hand going? It's like floating off. You need to catch that. It's going to go across the room. Get that. So I don't know. To me, the Shawn Michaels tugging at his waistband thing was always the most noticeable. I mean, even like as his career was coming to an end, he was still out there. Gotta hike him up. So,
I wonder if he's backstage at NXT, like in Gorilla, just messing with his pants the whole
right.
time.
Like Sean, nobody can see you. It's fine.
Well, we got a kind of interesting match coming up. Tell me about it.
We do. It is a bull rope match with Bob Orton, who we haven't seen in a while, with his manager Gary Hart versus Dick Murdoch, who we've not seen on pay-per-view before, even though he's a pretty legendary name in the business. Bob Orton, the last time we saw him, as a matter of fact, was on WrestleMania 3. So he's been off of our radar for a while. On this pay-per-view, he's 38 years old. Now, for context, currently, today, Randy Orton, his son, is 44.
Oh my gosh, how does he look so much younger than Bob Orton at 38?
I know.
They're
I know.
related. Their genetics should be the same.
I know. Maybe Randy Orton's mom had the good genes. I don't know. But let's talk about
guess
Dick
so.
Murdoch. Born on August 16th, 1946, unfortunately passed away June 15th, 1996, at the age of just 49 years old. On this pay-per-view, he was 42, and the last pay-per-view we'll see him on is WCW Slamboree 1996. Dick Murdoch's real name, well, close to his gimmick name, Hoyt Richard Murdoch. He saw most of his success in Mid-South Wrestling and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and just held numerous championships over the years, including several NWA territories, as well as the WWF way back in the day. So that's Dick Murdoch. Now, just so you know what we're looking at as we go into this match, Bob Orton returned to the NWA in April and defeated Dick Murdoch at Clash of the Champions 6. And then from that point forward, these two just kept interfering in each other's matches, and that set up this bull rope match for tonight. And it is not what I expected. But let's just get into it. When we go to the ring, both guys are already in there with no entrances, which was weird considering all the improvements we've seen so far.
Yeah, I guess maybe like when you go to quote the other guys and come back, like you get knocked down a peg or two. Because I feel like Bob Orton was kind of a big name before he left, and now he's just the guy without the entrance.
Yeah, yeah.
They said that this type of match originated in West Texas, and they mentioned Amarillo and Canyon, and I'm like, Justin, do you consider that West Texas? Because I don't.
You know, it's so weird. Like some people will call that West Texas. To me, it's not. I mean, it's, I guess, in the western half of Texas, but it's so far north of us that I'm like, no, that's not here.
No, I think West Texas is like when you're looking at Texas, that whole left piece that comes out toward like New Mexico and Arizona, that's West Texas. To me, Amarillo is straight up North Texas. And the way you can tell is they're always like 20 degrees colder than us. They always get a lot more snow. JR doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah. And the weird thing is
Yeah.
they call Dallas area North Texas. And that's like in the east. So I don't know. Go figure.
get it.
Texas education, not that great.
Right.
Now, you see, so usually when a guy has to take off his robe or his hat or something when he gets in the ring, he would hand it off to some schlubby stagehand. But now they've hired a blonde woman in a short skirt and a tube top. And I guess it's an improvement.
I mean, it's not a deprovement, if that's even a word. Yeah, I mean, it looks better than a schlubby guy. I like that word. I like how you spelled that too.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, the announcers point out that the middle of the bull rope that's connecting Orton and Murdoch has a cowbell in the middle. And thank God that they pointed that out. Not like I can hear it clanging throughout the entire match.
It killed me. It actually it didn't even sound like a bell. It sounded like wind chimes, like on a grandma's porch. But like, could they not have removed the thing out of it that makes the sound, like neutered the bell to make it quiet? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, take the thing out. Yeah, like take the thing out the middle and it doesn't work anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how I pictured it, neutering.
Oh, boy. Well, have your pets and bells spayed and neutered. So the match kind of starts as a mini tug of war, and it's even funnier because Murdoch is in jeans and cowboy boots. You know, it's a bull rope match. Orton, he's wearing his wrestling trunks and wrestling boots. Like one of them showed up for a fight, the other one showed up for the girl in the skirt and the tube top. That's it.
Heyo. I was just thinking she's probably someone's girlfriend, someone important's girlfriend, so she got on TV. But right in the beginning, Bob Orton, he like takes off running and of course gets pulled back by the rope. It's as if he forgot he was attached, which I don't know how with that dang bell. But I think they really had to just like show the audience how, quote, hard the stipulation is for wrestlers. You know, I think that's why they did that.
You know, it'd be really funny is if for some reason he was afraid of the bell and he kept trying to run away from it.
It's just attached.
The bell is attached.
The bell is attached. Oh, that's a subtitle, the sub name for this episode. The bell is attached.
There it is. If we've accomplished nothing today, we have titled the episode. So that's great.
We make ourselves laugh.
Yes. JR points out that he was talking to Orton earlier in the day and his eyes were bloodshot from partying too hard last night. Like, why even point that out? That was weird.
Yeah, why you gotta snitch, man? I mean, like, the only thing I could think of is maybe he's trying to like solidify him as a heel because partying and drugs are bad. And, I don't know.
Maybe, or
It was
maybe he
weird.
wasn't taking Murdoch seriously, so he just went out drinking last night. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Orton gets up on the top rope, but Murdoch yanks on the bull rope, pulling Orton down on the mat, and JR says, Orton was jerked off.
We laughed too. We're just so mature. But no, we looked at each other. We're like, nah. My favorite part of the match was when Murdoch had the big floppy cowboy boot on his hand, and he was like kind of using it as like a boxing glove. It was kind of fun. Something I haven't seen before.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's so much leeway in these matches, even though they're like tied together. So you're not going to see a ton of huge moves. But there's some fun little creative stuff you can do here and there. Finally, Dick Murdoch uses the bull rope to hog tie Bob Orton for the pin. Murdoch wins the match in just under 5 minutes. Now, post-match, Gary Hart runs in the ring and helps get the upper hand on Dick Murdoch. And that's when Orton wraps the bull rope around Murdoch's neck and hangs him over the top rope. And he's hanging there until he like passes out. And then the referees finally pull Orton away. I feel like they would not do this today.
I don't know, man, because they left Darby hanging for a while. And I remember, they left him hanging upside down, but at one point it was around his neck. And I was kind of surprised when they did that on AEW because I was like, this isn't a good look, especially because like Martha Hart was there. Because it was at Double or Nothing. That's right. Because Martha Hart was sitting right in front of me and I was like looking at her face. Like, ooh, are you okay with this? But yeah, I don't know if that would fly today. But okay, so this Gary Hart, does he have any relation to the famous Hearts?
No.
Okay.
No, we are not relations.
Or Jimmy Hart.
No, he is not related to any of the Harts that we know. Gary Hart kind of really made the biggest name for, he was in NWA a lot, but he also had a lot of business in Dallas in World Class. And his son, I'm trying to remember his son's name. I think it was Chad Hart, I want to say. When I worked for a wrestling company in Denton in the Dallas area, Chad Hart, Gary's son, actually worked some matches there. And so that was really cool. And Gary Hart, at some point, he's passed away now, but he wrote an autobiography that is apparently amazing. One of the best wrestling books ever written, but you can't get a copy of it anywhere.
Why?
It's just, I don't know if it was a limited run at the time or what happened, but like if you do happen to find a copy somewhere online, you're going to be paying a lot of money for it. It's very sought after. I want to say that there's like a PDF version that leaked on the internet somewhere, but people have even charged to sell that. So, man, interesting stuff. But that's Gary Hart for you. Lance Russell backstage with Michael P.S. Hayes. Michael heard Lex's interview earlier and says Lex is going to find out what he's got. He's going to squelch. Is that the right word? He said squelch. I don't feel like that's the right word.
I don't think that's the right word, but I like it. It's a cool word.
All right. He's going to squelch all the criticism and prove that he can win this championship on his own. And he ends the interview with a good line. If it weren't for people like you, there wouldn't be people like me. Ooh. I like it. Let's go to the next match.
A rebel. So we got a tag team match. It's the Dynamic Dudes versus the Samoan SWAT team with Paulie Dangerously.
Ladies and gentlemen.
We haven't seen any of these dudes before, which I felt kind of bad because I thought we had seen one of them before, but I figured out how I knew him. So let's get into it. Let's start with the Dynamic Dudes. So Mr. Johnny Ace, he was born in July of 1962, and he's 62 today, but he was a measly 26 on this show. Now, the last pay-per-view we'll see him wrestle on is the WWE Over the Limit in 2012. So it's not a super long way away. Like it was what? 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. But Justin, his real name is John Hodger Laurinaitis.
Oh, sorry. Little something came up.
Like what? Like that is
the me. John Laurinaitis who is currently being sued, who's named in the lawsuit for the awful things that he and Vince McMahon allegedly did to women in the WWE.
Yeah, and stepdad of the Bella twins, right?
X, yes.
Ex stepdad, got it. Well, he is the brother of Road Warrior Animal, so that's cool.
Yeah, we like Animal. We like Animal.
Yeah, we like Animal. Well, after his in-ring career, he spent many years as the head of talent relations for WWE, and that's all we got to say about that.
Yep. Let's move on.
Yeah, Shane Douglas.
Hell of a guy,
he
Shane
was-
Douglas. Shane Douglas.
He was born November 21st, 1964, bringing him to the age of 59 today, but he was 24 on this pay-per-view, and the last time we'll see him wrestle is on WCW Sin 2001. I think maybe John Laurinaitis should have been on that one.
Hey-o.
Heyo, Sin. Wow.
Sit down, Johnny Ace.
His real name is Troy Allen Martin, and he holds the record for most days spent as ECW World Champion, as well as the longest single reign as ECW World Champion. Cool. He was trained by Dominic DeNucci at the same time that Dominic was training a young Mick Foley.
Oh. You know what?
Oh.
I almost had a connection to Shane Douglas at one point.
How?
When I was living in Las Vegas, a friend of mine who I worked with there, and she was also a wrestling fan, somehow got contacted by a very rich guy there in Vegas who's wanting to start a new wrestling promotion with some really innovative ideas. And one of the talents that he had already been working on this with was Shane Douglas. And
Really?
she looped me into it, and we even met the guy for a dinner to talk about his plans at a Hooters there in Vegas, actually. And the main reason I went was because I was hoping Shane Douglas would be there, but he was not.
Right.
And we were going to work with him on this for I think the marketing of it or something like that, but it never came to fruition.
Man, that sucks. I wonder whatever happened with that.
I don't know,
what
but it
happened to
seems
that
really cool.
dude?
Now, Vegas does have a long running indie there called Future Stars of Wrestling. I went to some of their TV tapings a long time ago, and that's a really cool place. If you ever are in Vegas and want to check that out, go check them out.
I thought you were going to be like, and that guy's name was Tony Khan. I would laugh.
No. Tony Khan in a Hooters. Come on.
Come on. Well, let's move on to the Samoan SWAT team because this was the guy. I'm like, I know that face. Fatu is his name, and he was born October 11th, 1965, meaning he's 59 today. And on this pay-per-view, he was only 23. But the last pay-per-view we will see him wrestle on is WWE WrestleMania 20. Now, his real
Long
name
career.
His real name is Salafa Fatu Jr., but y'all might better know him as Rikishi.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, back that ass up.
Face. Yes, because I was thinking, I was like, is that Jacob Fatu's dad? No, he looks just like Solo Sikoa. But I was like, how do I know this guy? He's freaking Rikishi. It makes sense now. So he's a member of the bloodline in wrestling as the father of the Usos and Solo Sikoa. Duh. But in 1982, what you probably don't know is he was injured in a drive-by shooting. And that's what left that scar on his stomach that you can see to this day.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yeah,
crazy.
I feel like when he kind of started doing a solo thing in the WWF in the 90s, he was what was called Make a Difference Fatu. And where he's trying to teach kids to stay on the straight and narrow. And they talked about that scar on TV and how he got it.
Oh, that's dumb. I hate those gimmicks. I hate dad gimmicks and sober straight edge gimmicks like that, like being a hero.
Yeah, no, it really sucked.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about his partner, Samu. Not Sabu,
No.
Samu. Well, he was born on May 29th, 1963, and he is 61 years old today. I like all these dudes that I'm watching, how they're not little old men even
Right.
now. They're still cool and hip. And we're old when I say 61's not old. Wow.
Well, according
because
to you, he's just a few years older than me. So, my God.
He's not a few years older than me, though, so you are correct. Yes. Yay for being the youngest sibling. But the last pay-per-view we will see Samu on is WWF SummerSlam 1994. So, unfortunately, his career is not quite as long as Rikishi's. His real name is Samula Fred Anoa'i. Did I say that right? I'm always
You,
really bad at saying
you
that.
did. Noye. Yeah.
Noye. Okay. I'm always terrible because I always will say a no e
Yeah.
because yeah. Anyway, so Samu is also part of the bloodline as the father of Lance Anoa'i, who just signed with WWE this past summer. So before this, he and Fatu had already toured Japan and had a long stay in Texas. And after WCW, they would move to the WWF and would become known as the Head Shrinkers.
Yeah. And that's where I
Yeah.
became familiar with him when I was a kid.
See, I don't remember any of this except for Rikishi. Like,
You want to know how you know you're old?
how?
I had the Head Shrinkers little Hasbro figures when I was a kid,
Uh huh.
and I was in Target the other day, and I had a ton of those Hasbro figures. They're now coming out with like Legends figures
Oh no,
that
the
look
vintage.
just like the ones when they were current figures that I had.
Oh, but that's cool though, because they're like vintage, you know?
Yeah, no, you're right. Well,
Yeah.
the Samoans are in the ring, and just like we hear today, when he says his real name, Paul Heyman, we hear him say, "Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul E. Dangerously." Of course, they didn't all say it with him like they do now.
Right. And ooh, I loved that part, but I hate that he's in a suit. I miss his aerobic wear. Like moving forward, I know this is his signature look, but I don't know. There's something about a young Paul Heyman like in a frumpy suit. It's just weird. It's weird. Now he has like the
No.
tailored suits that look all nice, but I guess this was J.C. Penney Paul Heyman, not Armani. So
Yes. He found this suit on a blue light special at Kmart.
exactly.
But dynamic dudes make their entrances complete with neon colors and carrying skateboards. That's right. Carrying skateboards, not riding them. Nonetheless, the women are into the dynamic dudes.
I mean, they're attractive, but knowing who Johnny Ace is, I'm like, bleh.
Well, Jim Ross mentions for the first of several times during this show that the event is being broadcast live on their 900 number, and he'll be appearing on the post show on that same wrestling hotline. Question: do 900 numbers still exist?
I have no idea because I want to talk about this whole thing right now because I feel like 900 numbers were fading out even when I was a kid, like in the 90s. I just remember Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life worked at a 900. He worked at a sex line at a 9.
What?
Yes, there's a clip. And he's like, it's when he lost his job and he's going through all these different jobs and getting fired. And the phone rings and he's in like a call center and he's like, oh, baby, oh, baby, oh, baby. And it's so funny. That show was so above our heads and it was
Yeah.
just wonderful. But okay, so this concept is really foreign to me. So I need you to explain it to me. So did you pay per minute to have someone describe the match as it happened on this
I
hotline?
I don't know if it would be like separate commentary because he was saying that Lance Russell and Joe Pedicino were on there. So maybe they were doing their own commentary on there. I'm not sure.
Well, okay, I remember these 900 numbers were like per minute expensive. So why didn't you just order the pay-per-view and watch it and listen to it?
I don't know, but can you imagine some kid calling that line, which I'm sure happened like every time, and then their parents get the phone bill and it's like $500?
I know. Ooh, that would suck. Yep. I mean, not for
Yeah.
me, but for
But
the parents.
900 numbers. In fact, there was a really good podcast for anybody who wants like kind of one of these interesting podcasts, and it's just called Operator. And it's
Oh,
about this empire of 900 number sex lines back in the 90s, maybe even 80s too, and how it grew into this like multi-million dollar empire and then crashed in no time at all. Really good podcast.
I gotta listen to that. And it makes sense that it would crash like with the internet, being
Yeah.
invented and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before the match started, Paulie dangerously, he takes out his giant cell phone and then he holds it up to the ear of Fatu and then he holds it up to the ear of Samu. And they both acknowledge that they were being told something by the voice on the other end. Who could that be?
Well, if they were acknowledging someone. Oh, wait, Roman was only 4 at the time. So it's clearly The Rock. I mean,
Ah,
I Googled it. He was 17 at the time, which I'm like, that kind of puts into perspective that The Rock is kind of old. Like now, if he was 17 during this pay-per-view, but The Rock was clearly calling all of the shots from the phone, even back then. And like, honestly,
Mm.
I'm surprised he didn't take out Road Warrior Animal from the main event and put himself in there instead. Wham! Wham!
You
Got
know,
him.
whenever he was holding that phone up to their heads, I just thought they were hearing, "Oh baby, oh baby, oh baby."
I'm gonna send you that clip because you're gonna be like, "What the hell?" It's a whole like compilation of things on Rocco's Modern Life that were so dirty and we didn't even know about it.
Oh my god.
Like when the superhero's nipples shoot out and suck onto Heifer's eyes. That was crazy. Man, we need like a Nickelodeon podcast too. I'm telling you. Totally
I'd be
random, but
down.
yeah, this entire match, I just heard Shamu. Every time they said Samu, I heard Shamu. So that's his name to me now, Shamu.
Okay,
Yep,
it's a thing now. We have Debbie Lynn and we have Shamu.
sure do. Yep.
Yeah. Did you see the bangs on that woman in the front row? Like those bangs were high.
Yeah.
They were high. Like somewhere up in heaven, God's like, "Oh, my ass tickles." Like they were high.
I'm still sick and you're going to make me cough. Oh my God, yes. Because they always say, like, hire the hair closer to Jesus. Yes, tickling his
Yeah.
butt. Those weren't even like, were those even considered attractive? Because I didn't see a lot of bangs like that in the 80s. And she actually kind of resembled Taylor Swift in the face.
A little bit. A little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. Well, early in the match, a chant was started by the crowd, and they even showed like a bunch of adolescent boys yelling it, but I couldn't tell what they were saying. Did you catch it at all?
Oh baby, oh
Oh my
baby, oh
God.
baby.
Oh
No, I don't know.
gosh.
I don't know what they were doing.
Dang.
So let's talk about this. We kind of mentioned it earlier when we're talking about the head shrink. So at this time, Fatu's sons, the Usos, were 4 years old, and Solo Sikoa was 4 years away from being born. Now, looking at Johnny Ace, we're looking at the guy who would not only replace Jim Ross, who's on commentary as head of talent relations in the WWE, he would also be the boss of both JR and Paul Heyman. And he would also be the stepfather of the Bella twins, and by extension, the stepfather in law of Bryan Danielson. And looking at Fatu, this is the guy who would go on to have his most famous move be the stink face.
Hey, that's way more accomplishment than freaking Laurinaitis, I'd say. But
Truth.
who knew that this dude would be rubbing his butt in people's faces, wearing his yellow sunglasses, and like have a whole dance in the ring and have
Yeah.
bleached hair? Like, who knew?
Remember on the No Mercy video game, like if you won, like they would do the dance and everything. It's really
Except for
cool.
like their arms and hips were like disconnected when they were
Yeah.
dancing.
Of course, at the time we were like, "This is so realistic. It's amazing."
I know. It's funny
weird.
because Sean Ross Sapp just did an interview with Kenny Omega and he put like a screen grab of it on Twitter. And someone put, "Why does Kenny Omega look like a GoldenEye 007 character?" And he did. There was something with the way his face was looking, and it
Yeah,
looked
it's like they
just
had like those
that.
pasted on faces that were like all flat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So funny.
Well, Dangerously gets on the mic and tells Johnny Ace, "You are as useless as a woman from Nashville, Tennessee." There's the heel heat. Damn.
Damn. And I think this was very strategic because if you noticed, the crowd had started dying down and getting kind of quiet. And after Paul did that, they were hot for the rest of the match. So, like,
Yeah.
that's freaking genius right there. Like, that's the beginning of what Paul Heyman contributed. He's so good.
Yeah, just fantastic. Now, finally, Fatu has Shane Douglas held up for a body slam, but Johnny Ace comes off the top rope, drop kicks Fatu, and Shane falls on top of them for the 1, 2, 3.
Yep, the dynamic dudes win this match in just 11 minutes and 2 seconds. But my question is, do you think that 3 count was a little iffy? Was that just me?
No, it was not just you, because I did the same thing. I was like, not sure if that was okay. I guess we're going with it.
Yeah, I think they broke the pin at like 2.75.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what'd you think of the match? You like it?
You know what? To me, it was just cool seeing the Samoans here for the first time. The match was actually, it wasn't bad, really. But feeding the dynamic dudes to him, I think it made sense.
Yeah, it kind of started off a little interesting. I'm not gonna say bad, but the Samoans, or at least Samu, was moving very slow, and so it looked
Mm,
kind of weird. It was like a dynamic dude would run at him, and then they'd stop, and then he'd kind of pick them up and stuff. But it
yeah.
it pulled together. The chemistry finally got there at one
Yeah.
point. But afterward, backstage, Lance Russell is with the three legendary NWA champions who will be the judges for the championship match tonight if it goes to a time limit draw. So these are Lou Thez, Pat O'Connor, and Terry Funk.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's so good on the show. But anyway, Lance basically asked them what they're going to be looking for in tonight's match that could sway their judging one way or the other. And there's really not much to say. I mean, they're just kind of like, yeah, we're going to be looking for a match. But it was really cool to see these legends.
I love how Terry Funk is one of the most violent men in the history of wrestling. And he talks and everything's okay. He's just
Yeah.
like, well, I think we're going to be looking at their athleticism and I'm looking forward to a good match, Lance.
That's a really good impression. See, you're the impressions guy. I can just do Rocco. Rocco's Modern Life. Hi,
Oh,
baby.
baby. Well, what if it was Terry Funk working the sex line?
You do it.
Baby. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Oh, my horse is sick. I gotta go.
What if it was Susan working she'd be like, oh, baby. Oh, baby.
Oh, that's gross. I don't do that.
It kind of sounds like Miss Elizabeth. They're the same. What? All right. Well, take me to the next match for the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship.
Yes, indeed. It is a singles match. Our champion, Lex Luger, the total package, versus Michael P.S. Hayes with Hiro Matsuda. Now, he did say he was coming out alone, but he's got Hiro with him. All right. Well, we saw both of these guys on the Chi-Town Rumble, and both of them are 30 years old in this match. Let's talk about the NWA United States Championship. This is the seventh time we've seen it defended on pay-per-view. Last time was at the Chi-Town Rumble. And at this point, Lex Luger had been the champion for 77 days after defeating Barry Windham at the Chi-Town Rumble. Setting up this match on an episode of WCW TV, these two had actually teamed up to face Barry and Kendall Windham. However, Michael Hayes turned on Lex Luger, allowing the Windhams to win the match and joining Hiro Matsuda's Yamazaki Corporation. So let's get into the match here. Michael Hayes enters with Hiro Matsuda, but with no other members of the Fabulous Freebirds. So I guess that's technically doing this without any help like he promised.
Yeah, I guess. But speaking of the entrance, good Lord. That entrance was about as long as Roman Reigns' entrance, but without the cool music. Am I wrong here?
No, he definitely got plenty of time here.
Oh, yes. Well, also the entrance area, I commented on it before how it looked a little dinky. It's still a little dinky. It looks a little bit bigger than last time, but with all the swirling lights, oh my God, I had a flashback. It was like I walked into a Spencer's. Remember that store? And like
Oh, yeah.
it was kind of dark in there and it would have like the swirling, there was like those globes of light that would swirl. That's what it looked like. And like every Spencer's smelled, like it had a smell, almost like, I don't know, Halloween mask and dildo. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. And they would have like those, I forget what they're called, but they're like those crystal balls with the electricity inside, and you touch the
Ooh.
glass and it like the electricity goes to your hand.
Yeah, I had one of those, but it was shaped like a dolphin.
Oh, I remember that.
It's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And our mall here still has a Spencer's in it, but it's hilarious because like I remember as a kid when there was Spencer's, or even not even necessarily as a kid, like maybe as a teenager, they had like some of the adult stuff in there, but not like a ton. I'm telling you right now, you go to Spencer's now and go to like the last quarter of the store, and it is nothing but everything you can imagine.
Oh gosh, they have every edible piece of clothing I've ever seen back there.
Which is great because if you get hungry, you know. In
Yeah,
fact,
but
just earlier today, I was sitting here at my desk chewing on an edible thong. It was great.
see, and that's nasty because I'm like, there's no way that tastes good. I mean, if it was like sponsored by Skittles or something, maybe, but that's like some cheap candy being made in some cheap factory.
Mm.
I don't know. You wouldn't catch me eating that.
Taste the rainbow indeed. Well, Michael Hayes got fireworks over the ring before the match even starts, and that's new. We haven't seen that before, but he does something kind of odd too, and it drives me nuts when wrestlers do this because they still do that to this day. When a challenger for a title does the motion with their hands indicating like a belt around their waist, Michael Hayes does it here, and it always drives me nuts.
Why do you hate that? I like that. Britt Baker does it. Danny Garcia. I think Rhea's been doing it. Yeah.
I feel like it's not effective. It's only done because they've seen other people do it. And like, we know that you want to be the champion because you're in a title program and a title match. We don't think that you're going into this hoping you'll lose.
Yeah, true. I mean, they're just getting fired up, brother.
You know what? I'm getting fired up.
Uh-oh, you gonna fart?
I do.
Doesn't surprise
All
me.
better. All better.
So let me ask you this first. Was this music dubbed for Michael Hayes? Sorry, he's drinking his pickle juice and cranberry juice concoction.
Sorry. No, I don't think it was.
Okay, because I didn't know if the audio was just that bad in the arena because Michael's music is fully drowning out the ring announcer and commentary team. Like, I thought maybe it was dubbed in over, and so it was just so loud that it was over the rest of the audio, but you couldn't hear. I mean, they were actually talking and saying things that were more than just, oh, this is Michael Hayes, but couldn't hear it at all.
Yeah, no, not that I can remember. I'd have to go back and look and see because it could be that he was coming out to something else at the time, but I'm not sure. Lex Luger enters with some 4 guys. Like, maybe they were security, but like literally nobody else on the show got security for their entrance. So this was kind of weird.
It was. They all entered too, like with like this little synchronized jog, like all together, and it was honestly creepy. I was like, "Is this his fan club?"
They're the Luger Boogers.
The Luger Boogers. That's fantastic.
I don't know. Now, you know, between these two wearing blue gear and the blue and yellow accents on the ring, it feels like the show was sponsored by Blockbuster.
Oh, wouldn't that be so cool?
Right?
No, it's weird because it's the exact same color of blue, the exact. And I feel like WCW, you know, like they were kind of hurting for money. They just like bought this one ream of like 50% off blue spandex on clearance at Hobby Lobby and said, let's get as much gear out of this thing as possible because it was an exact match. And I was like, that's such a strange choice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I noticed, speaking of gear, our camera guys here are no longer in random t-shirts and shorts. They have nice shirts that say NWA Camera Crew on the back. And it's just another little nice detail to help the whole thing look more presentable and professional.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I don't know, they need to work on their professional camera skills, though, because Lex hit a huge move. I don't even remember what it was. And he went for a pose. And right when he's like 90% of the way there, the camera cuts away and showed some doofuses in the audience for about 3 seconds, not doing anything, just sitting there, and then went back and caught the very end of his pose. I was like, what are you doing, camera dudes?
The old Kevin Dunn School of TV Production.
Right? I was like, what the hell? But I'll tell you one thing. Michael Hayes is certainly giving George the Sweater Steel a run for his money on body hair.
Man, oh man. You know he doesn't go walking through a Velcro factory.
That's dumb. But I feel like lately we haven't seen many hairy guys. Like the back hair and stuff, like it kind of went away. It's like they figured out that that's kind of not something that you want to see up close and personal on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, JR made a good point here. The crowd's chanting that Michael sucks. So he gets out of the ring to kind of jaw with them, you know, and JR says that that's frustrating to a young talent like Luger because it breaks the momentum that you've built up. I like that kind of psychology talk that JR did there.
Yeah, and that's really true if you think about it. But around this time, they point out that Teddy Long is ringside again. So I have to ask, what is he doing?
It'll be fine.
How long does it take? When do I get to see it?
He's scouting, okay?
Well, but like, who is he? Oh, I'm an ex-ref. I'm going to scout and make my own team.
Who better knows wrestlers, good guy and bad guy, than a guy who's been in there with both?
Fair point. Okay.
Okay. Right after Luger caught Michael's leg and spun him around, Michael Hayes threw a straight-on punch that looked like it caught Lex square in the nose. And it wasn't like one of those punches that comes from the side like a normal wrestling punch. It was like, I'm pulling back my fist and it's going straight forward right into your nose.
Yeah, definitely was expecting all that blood there. And, right after, Lex got Michael in like this hella painful looking armbar, and it looked like his arm was going to snap. And so maybe this was like a little payback, like for the bop on the nose. Like, all right,
Yeah,
you want to
it
play?
could have
Boom.
been.
Yeah,
It could have
definitely.
been. Yeah. Well, the crowd, I mean, they are super hot for this match.
Yes, but then they showed the doofuses again, the same doofuses. Like, why? Like, this time they're all sitting there and one like takes a drink of his soda. Did they like win a contest to be on TV?
They're like those Costco guys on the AEW pay-per-view a couple weeks ago.
They were on Dynamite this week, and I don't even know what the Costco guys are.
I don't either. I don't either.
Okay. I'm like, am I too old for that? Like, I don't know what those men
I
are.
think we are. Lex shoots Michael into the ropes, and there was supposed to be a ref bump here. But Michael Hayes barely brushed the elbow of referee Nick Patrick, but that's okay. Nick went down like he got shot with a bazooka anyway. And that's when Terry Gordy of the Freebirds interferes and shoves Michael Hayes on top of Lex. Lex gets his foot on the rope, but Terry Gordy shoves it off. The referee, completely unaware. The match is over. Michael Hayes wins the match and the United States Championship in 16 minutes and 6 seconds.
I got stuff to say. Okay.
Oh,
Last week when you told me that I was going to be mad and throwing things because of this show, this is one of the times I want to throw something because I love Lex Luger. Don't want him losing that title yet. But I will say, this match, this is how you perfectly build a match. You start slow and you build, build, build. Perfect execution. Like I loved it. Loved it very much.
yeah. No, this was a really fun match. Could have gone either way. Told a great story in there. And the fact that Michael Hayes had promised he would prove that he could do it on his own, and then he couldn't, it just makes him that much more of a heel when he wins the belt.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah. But now we go to one of the funniest moments of the night. Funniest interview for sure. Blink and you'll miss it. Lance Russell is backstage with Sting, and Sting is amped up, man. He is fired up tonight. And he says, every time I see the crowd with the face paint and being weird and doing weird stuff like I do, I can't wait. And Sheik, you're going to love this as much as I am. Later, and leaves.
I loved the later.
He just leaves. And Lance Russell's like, and we'll go back to you.
Which takes us to our NWA World Television Championship match with the Iron Sheik with Rip Morgan and our champion Sting. Hell yeah. So, obviously, the Iron Sheik, he's been gone for a while. We last saw him wrestle on WWF WrestleMania 3, which is crazy because that's at least 2 years ago. So anyway, like you said earlier, he's the oldest one on this pay-per-view at 47. And Sting, he is 30. He finally hit the big 3-0. He was 29 when we last saw him on Chi-Town Rumble. Cool. So a little bit of history here. The Iron Sheik popped up at WCW in February of this year, calling out the top champions at the time, which was Ricky Steamboat and Lex Luger. However, Sting won the television championship in April, and Sheik just kind of decided to go for that title instead. I don't know.
Oh, you seem like you are easy to beat, easy to humble. I will humble your ass. Hot tour.
Haktua. I forgot about her. Whatever happened to Haktua, girl?
Yeah, I don't know.
So a little bit of title stats. This is the 8th time we've seen this title defended on pay-per-view. And the last time we saw this title defended on pay-per-view was at Chi-Town Rumble. So at this point, Sting had been champion for 38 days after defeating Mike Rotunda at a house show. So he hasn't had it for a super long time, a little bit over a month. But let's get into the match.
Yeah. So when we go to the ring, the Iron Sheik is already out there with this giant Iranian flag, and that will matter later in the match.
Well, Sting, my dude. I gotta ask you, buddy, what is that patch of dark brown hair you have at the base of your skull? Like, is that the rat tail? Like, or is that just a random tuft of dark hair like amongst all of the platinum blonde hair? We gotta have a talk, Sting.
Yeah, that was a stylistic choice that I'm sure he might regret today. I don't know.
It's like he ran out of bleach. And so he's
Yeah.
like, crap, there's my natural color coming out. Maybe since it's at the base of my skull, no one will notice.
Yeah. No, that was really weird. We get a shot of the curtain, and a bunch of kids come running out of there with Sting behind them. And I'm not sure that I took this the way it was meant to be taken.
Bro, thank you. Like, I thought I was the only weirdo that thought it looked kind of creepy. What are you looking at?
My dog just came up to the door.
Oh, okay, because I saw your door kind of move and I was like, whoa. But no,
Oh
I
no,
thought it looked.
let's have Penny make a quick appearance on here real quick.
Let's do it because, nah, man, that was totally creepy. Everyone look at Penny. Penny dog. Oh, she just opened the door. Saw him, ran away.
now. She doesn't even care now.
Nope.
Good girl, Penny. Okay. Sorry about
Okay.
that, everybody.
You're fine, but
Gotta
no,
take
that
care
was
of dog things before my wife gets home. That's all it is.
well, that was totally weird. Totally weird. But anyway, the way JR pronounces Iran, he says Iran, and I think he's talking about West Texas because there's a small town that it looks like Iran, but it's two A's. So Iran, and it's pronounced Iran. And like, can
Yes.
you imagine how much different the Iron Sheik would be if he came from Iran and not Iran?
He would be the oil chic if he
The
came from
oil sheik.
Iran.
He'd be like, I like gas station burritos. So I think
That's
so.
about all there is there.
Yep.
Just quick note, when they showed the Sheik's name on the Chiron, they misspelled it.
I didn't even
It was
catch that.
it was SHIEK instead of EIK.
To be fair, I do that sometimes and I have to correct myself. So just to be fair. So
Okay, fair.
Iron Sheik starts the match off just by whacking Sting over and over with this flagpole. And like the whole first few minutes of this match, he still has his robe and his headpiece on. And it was very distracting to me because they both kept stepping on the bottom of his robe. And I was like, take it off. I want it gone. Like, why did it take so long?
Yeah, but the thing is, I didn't expect the Iron Sheik to be wearing neon orange trunks under all that.
Yeah, that was weird. He looked like a cone, a traffic cone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Iron Sheik chokes Sting with his sash and starts punching him, but then Sting starts no-selling the punches, and that's when you know it's all over.
Oh yeah, totally over. Stinger splash into the Scorpion Deathlock, and 1, 2, 3, or no, not even a 1, 2, 3. It was a submission, and it's over.
Yep, Sting wins that match and retains his championship in just 2 minutes and 12 seconds.
Ooh.
So this all happened really fast. I loved it. I love a Stinger squash.
It probably took Sting more time to put on his face paint than it did for this match to start and finish.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, I'll always love a Sting match, but Lance Russell is backstage with Ricky Steamboat. Ricky says that this is the most important match of his career, and it's Ric Flair's last chance at his title, as there were many other contenders out there. Ricky tells Rick, "You are the greatest champion ever. No matter what happens tonight, I will shake your hand and tip my hat to you." Aw, isn't he nice? So
Mm.
he finishes by saying that he's in the greatest shape of his life, and so is Rick. So tonight, let there be no excuses.
Oh, here we go. Are you ready for it?
Let's do it. Let's talk about it.
It's a singles match for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Ric Flair against the champion, Ricky Steamboat. Saw both of these guys at the Chi-Town Rumble. This is a rematch, actually, a two-time rematch. Ric Flair here, 40 years old. Ricky Steamboat, 36. This is the 10th time we've seen this title defended on pay-per-view. Last time was, as I said, at Chi-Town Rumble. And at this point, Ricky Steamboat had been the champion for those 77 days since the Chi-Town Rumble. Now, these two had a rematch from the Chi-Town Rumble, and it was just on TV. It was on Clash of the Champions, I believe, and it was a 2 out of 3 falls match with Ricky winning the match in 3 falls. However, Ric Flair's foot was on the rope for the final fall, so a rematch was scheduled for this show. Let's get into it, because this is the third in the trilogy of Flair Steamboat matches that everybody considers to be among the best in history. So back in the arena, we hear Ric Flair's music. The entrance lights up with the sparklers again. He and Great Muta must have paid off the pyro guy or something, because they're the only two who get it. Rick makes his way down the aisle. Not only does he have several women with him, there are women standing on both sides of the aisle, all of them dressed just alike in silver short dresses. JR says there's 40 of them. Was there really? I don't know.
I counted maybe 13. They all looked like groomed poodles because they all had
Oh,
this fluffy curly hair that was teased up. They just looked like poodles. But, you know, I was surprised to hear Ric Flair getting some boos because I kind of figured he was immune to that. He's kind of like their Hulk, you know? So that kind of
right.
surprised me.
Yeah, yeah, no, and it was kind of like it's been one of those things where it's like the crowd wanted to like him, but they didn't feel like they were allowed to like him. So it was an interesting thing. But Ricky Steamboat's music starts, and he comes down the aisle with his wife
Mm,
and their son, who is on the back of a white horse, like a real
mhm.
white horse, dressed as a cowboy because we're in Nashville. And yes, it was corny, but I kind of liked it.
Okay, I was really excited when like the lights come up and I saw the horse. I was like, "Oh my god, there's a horse!" And I thought Ricky was gonna come out, and then I was like, "Oh, the kid is there. The kid is on the horse. This is not a birthday party. We are not doing horsey rides. No, get out of there, child. I don't like the family man gimmick."
Well, they
But
tried to get rid of the horse, but they couldn't. You know why?
why?
The kid is attached.
Thought you were gonna make a hey joke or something.
No.
Well, I don't think the kid was dressed as a cowboy. He was dressed like Honky Tonk Man, or I guess that would be Elvis.
Yes, yes. I guess since they're in Nashville, I don't know. I don't know. But as we said before, this is a 1 hour time limit. And if it goes the full hour, the three judges at ringside will decide the winner. Also, like we said before, when we covered the first Flair Steamboat match, we're not going to say anything about this match from a technical standpoint that hasn't been said before.
No, but okay, but it was kind of like a slap fest and like chop fest in various points of the match, and it just made me think. I've already talked about this game once today, but like on N64 GoldenEye 007, did you ever play Slappers Only?
Oh my God, you couldn't kill anybody.
You couldn't, and I had never even played it until like a year ago, like as an adult. It's freaking hard, but that's what they were doing. They were just slapping the crap out of each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But hey, Bob Caudle mentions that Ricky Steamboat is the only man who has ever made Ric Flair submit. I thought that was kind of cool.
That is cool. I wonder if it's true, like if it ever happened on
Mhm.
house shows or anything. But I mean, even so, I mean, that's a great way to put Ricky over, right?
Oh, yeah. You can tell that both of these dudes just like mega respect each other just with how much they
Oh
put each
yeah,
other over, you know?
absolutely. JR says that every 15 minutes, the judges will keep commentary abreast of their scoring. And I think JR was wanting to keep abreast of 40's players, 40 women at ringside. And that's, if you can't do multiplication, 80 abreasts.
I mean, technically, it could be more, Justin. Third nipples are more common than you think. There could be more breast in there.
So we see several shots of the judges during this match. And I have to wonder, like, what must they be thinking? Like, especially Luthez and Pat O'Connor, really, really old school guys. I found myself wondering if they enjoyed watching this match or if they thought that these guys were doing too much. You know what I mean? And like those notes that they're keeping, like what an eBay auction that would be.
Oh, I know. And you know, it's kind of funny you mentioned that about like are they doing too much because I feel like that's how like Ricky and Rick would feel about guys today, you know?
Right.
So it's just kind of generational like that. But yeah, I did notice Terry Funk is left-handed because he was
Oh.
writing notes with his left hand and I thought like I'd kill to know what he was writing down because I'm sure he was just like doodling or like writing down funny stuff. I don't know, but
He's like, eggs, milk, fabric softener. Uh,
I like how you just listed the items that Kevin buys in Home Alone in order. I got milk, eggs, and fabric softener.
that's weird. That's got to be some deep recessed memory back there.
I know. But I also noticed Lou and Pat have some crazy cauliflower ear going on. So I'm guessing they took some real hits in the early days of wrestling.
Oh yeah, when it was a lot more mat based and a lot more grappling. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed
But
that.
speaking of, there's a lot of time in this match dedicated to submission holds. And, you know, in a lot of matches, that would get old if it was just so many minutes in a submission. But with these two, I didn't mind it one bit. Somehow they kept the drama alive in the middle of submission holds.
Yeah, like for example, like they engaged in this overhead wrist lock and I thought it was cool because it was purely a test of strength. Like, who is stronger? Like, whoever's
Yeah.
stronger is gonna, do this. And Ricky Steamboat won that battle. He was stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 15 minutes have passed in the match and we get the scorecards from the judges. So far, all of them say that Ricky Steamboat is making the better showing. So
Hmm.
keep that in mind. Steamboat is thrown out of the ring and he's lying by the rail when some woman in the front row is putting her hand on Ricky's shoulder, shoving him by the shoulder, saying, "Get back in there, Ricky. Ricky, get up and get in there."
I mean, I can't hate because I know I did that to Brian Pillman Jr. and Chris Jericho. But I didn't touch him though. Like, I don't want, it wasn't because I was like being like uber respectful. I just didn't want that oil and sweat on me. I was like, ew, I don't want to touch you. But I was like, you can do it, Chris Jericho. Get up there. You can do it. Because he like got thrown into the what do you call it? The barrier? The thing?
Barricade?
Yeah, the barricade. There we go. Yeah, he got
Yeah.
thrown into it. So I was like, get up, Chris Jericho. You must. And he was like,
Well, great heel move from Flair here. He's arguing with the referee, but he has his body turned so the referee can't see that Flair's shin is crushing down on Ricky's throat. And just to say this, if there's a throat injury, Hulk Hogan, it doesn't affect him. He'll just
no.
beat you up in
No,
two
no.
matches.
Nothing affects Hulk Hogan. He's invincible,
Yeah.
Justin.
Listen to
I
our
mean-
last episode if you don't understand that one. Go on.
Right. Oh, man. Well, I was pissed. Because the ref
Oh, no.
did it to me again. Ricky was on the top rope, staring down at Ric Flair on the floor, and the ref stopped him from jumping again. They blue balled me again. I had blue balls.
Yeah, I guess this is when they were still having that rule that you couldn't come off from the top rope. Because if you think about it earlier, when Johnny Ace did that drop kick from the top, it was when the referee's back was turned. So I don't know.
It's a momentum killer. I'm like, everyone wants to see this. And like, can you imagine the first time seeing that? That would have been perfect for this match.
Right.
Rage. Well, funny moment from Ric Flair. This was just a funny sell that it literally made me laugh out loud. Steamboat rammed Rick's head like into the turnbuckle, and his sell job, like he just fell straight back, stiff as a board. It looked cartoony, but like in a great way.
Hey, Rick, he's considered one of the best ever, and half of that is because of his selling.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
I mean, he's just so good at it. Everybody's waiting for Steamboat to lock Flair in the double chicken wing, and he finally does. Everybody's like, oh, God, it's over. But Flair almost immediately gets his feet into the ropes, and it's one of those, oh, my God, here it is. Oh, no. But then you realize they're just going to keep going.
Oh, yeah. They tricked me several times, but
Yeah.
brother, I got to ask you, how many effing times can JR say the words chicken wing in one match? I counted at least 10, and that was just like after I noticed he kept saying it. And I felt like it was like a dare, like in Practical Jokers, like, okay, say chicken wing again, because he said it so much. Or like maybe he was just hungry. Shit, someone feed him, because after the show, he went and bought some chicken wings because he was like, oh, I talked about those tonight. That sounds really good.
Hell yeah, with some barbecue sauce on him.
Exactly. Oh, it was irritating me. He just kept saying it over and over. Well, we almost saw, what do you call it? The baby nature boy? What do you call him?
No, I think that's pretty good. Baby nature boy. Yeah.
Whatever you call it. We almost saw it. Because, did you catch this moment? Because
I didn't. No.
Rick was hanging upside down on the turnbuckles, facing inward toward the ring. And Ricky decided to grab him by his trunks, and he kind of pulled out and down a little bit and quickly realized that's not a good idea and stopped.
Oh boy.
Yeah, like I think he was, yeah, I don't know what Ricky was thinking, but he quickly realized, oh crap, about to expose the Ric Flair.
Yeah, well, and Rick was probably like, not yet. We're not on the airplane. I can't let that out yet.
Ayo.
Ew. Moments later, Ricky is thrown to the outside again, and he's hurt his knee. Oh no. Flair suplexes Ricky back into the ring and locks in the figure four. And now the crowd is like super hot and on their feet. They think Rick is about to put Steamboat away here.
But he didn't. And then my favorite part of the match is when Rick did those rapid fire quick 4 pin attempts in a row, and Ricky never gave up. You thought one of those, that was going to be it, but he raised his shoulder every time. Oh, it was so good. He had so much fight in him.
Yeah. I mean, these two, like you said, perfect chemistry, perfect respect. It's just, I could watch these guys go every week.
Me too. And this match, it looked perfectly chaotic. Like random chairs laying around the outside of the ring, the crowd jumping up and down, yelling. Oh, it was just so perfect. Can't get over
It's
it.
everything you want in a wrestling match, top to
Definitely.
bottom.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
but as Ricky gets to the ropes, Jim Ross reminds us that this is the NWA. They aren't out here posing to rock and roll music. They wrestle here.
Ho, ho, ho.
Okay.
Shots
All right, JR. We get it. We get it. Finally, Ricky picks up Flair for a body slam, but his injured knee gives out. Flair falls on top of Steamboat. 1, 2, 3, and Ric Flair wins the match and the championship once again in 31 minutes and 37 seconds. We've said a lot. What else do you want to say about this match?
Okay, so I'm assuming your comment last week was about me being angry and throwing things because of the result of this match. But
Yes, that's what I figured.
I'm actually not mad about it. And the reason
Okay.
why is because the match was so good and they were so evenly matched that it makes sense. I mean, take like, I don't know, football. Like you have an undefeated team and then every once in a while there's just a slip up and they lose a game and they shouldn't have lost it, but they do. And so that's what happened to Ricky Steamboat here. You can't win them all. I thought the match was good and Ric Flair proved himself and proved that he's like amazing and deserves the championship. It wasn't like the Hulk and Randy Savage one from our last episode where, you know, Randy got all this offense in and then Hulk wins it out of nowhere. So
Yeah.
I'm actually okay with this for now. For now.
No, and what we'll see too after this match is really going to take us into a brand new thing, and I think is going to allow the fans to fully embrace Flair as a good guy. But let's get into it. So just as promised, Ricky Steamboat shakes Ric Flair's hand and then rides off into the sunset. Not on the horse, he just leaves the ring. That horse is somewhere taking pictures with Flair's 40 women, actually. Hey. Anyway,
Dumb.
Jim Ross gets in the ring to interview Flair. JR tells us that we've seen history as Flair is now a 6-time world champion. And Flair takes the mic and says it's not in character for him to say it, but Ricky Steamboat is the greatest champion that he has ever faced. And that takes in a lot of territory if you think about it. I mean, a guy who's gone against Harley Race, you know, and Dusty Rhodes and all these guys. And really, in-ring standpoint, the best matches were with Steamboat.
Definitely. I agree. And
Yeah.
again, I like Rick, you know, I mean, I didn't even get a babyface feel here. That is the Ric Flair genuine dude talking to the audience, you know? I mean, maybe I'm
Right.
gullible. I don't know.
Right. Well, out of nowhere, Terry Funk, who was one of the judges for the match, gets in the ring and he congratulates Flair and then challenges him for the championship. But Flair makes a good point. He says, Terry's been gone for several years doing stuff in Hollywood, and we have a top 10 contenders list here, and Terry's not on it. Well, Terry,
Oh.
he takes offense to it, and he looks a little hurt, and he says, do you think I'm not good enough? You think I don't deserve to face you? And Flair tries to explain, says, you know, well, you're not on the top 10 list. And Terry says he was just kidding. And then Terry even sticks out a hand for a congratulatory handshake. But then, boom, cheap shot, Funk to Flair, and it's on. And Terry throws Flair to the outside into the front row, and he's absolutely murdering Flair before standing on the timekeeper's table and pulling Rick up there with him. And then that's when you start watching, you go, no, he's not gonna, no. And then boom, Terry Funk hits a pile driver to Ric Flair on the table. And this isn't one of those cheap tables that crumbles into sawdust today. This was when tables were men. I mean, this is a chunky ass table. And Terry gives Rick a chair shot to the head for good measure, leaves him laying, and then he grabbed JR's microphone and says, look at that horse tooth banana nose jerk.
It was awesome.
Best insult I think I've heard all day.
Was that table supposed to break? Because I'm so used to them breaking. And I was like, oh, it was like an AEW table because their table spots never work.
I don't think it was made to, but it would have been okay if it did, you know?
It just, I don't know. It almost, to me, as a current wrestling fan, it looked like Yeah, the table was supposed to break and it just didn't happen. But they
Maybe
didn't do as
so.
much table stuff back then, so it probably looked normal to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, backstage we're with Joe Pedicino, who is a longtime wrestling announcer and is now appearing here for the first time. He's with Nikita Koloff, who's the special guest referee for this next match. I'm sorry, wait, what? The the, the amazing match with that amazing follow-up that we just saw, that wasn't the end? We're actually going to try to follow that with something? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, all right. Well, Nikita says that he knows all the men in this next match well, and as the referee, he will be impartial. And yes, he did say all of that with an absolutely awful Russian accent. So, knowing all that, let's go to the next match that follows what we just saw.
Yes, let's go to the next match, which I don't understand why it's happening. But I was like, okay, I was like, let me just get through it because maybe I'll understand. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a tag team match for the NWA World Tag Team Championship with special referee Nikita Koloff. So we've got the Road Warriors with Paul Ellering versus the Varsity Club, who are the champions, with Kevin Sullivan. So we saw all of these dudes on Chi-Town Rumble, and they're all late 20s, early 30s. So we got Road Warrior Animal, Road Warrior Hawk, Mike Rotunda, and Steve Williams. So as for the title stats, this is the eighth time we've seen this title defended on pay-per-view, and the last time we saw it defended was at Chi-Town Rumble. So at this point, the Varsity Club have been champions for 36 days after defeating the Road Warriors at Clash of the Champions 6, which if I were like a fan back then, like I don't know how they felt in the wrestling fandom back then, but I would be like, can we move on? It feels a little FTR Young Bucks ish. Like we've
Mm,
just seen it a lot recently, and I'm ready
yeah.
for them to kind of move on. But other than that, let's get into the match.
Yeah, so the varsity club is already in the ring with a bunch of cheerleaders in front of them, like a whole cheerleading squad. And to be honest, I was trying to figure out if any of them were the women in Flair's entourage earlier. I don't think they were, but that was like my first thought that they were going to save money by doubling up on these women.
Did they have poodle hair?
Uh, no, but they did have cheerleading outfits that said, I think it was like Warriors or something like that on, or no, it wasn't Warriors. It was some other sports sounding name. And I tried looking it up and I couldn't find any team with that name in that area. But, you know,
Yeah.
I tried to do my research.
You tried. That's what counts.
Okay. Well, the Road Warriors music hits and it was like a scene from Family Guy. Like the cheerleaders all freak out, like scramble out of the ring. Like I halfway expected if it was Family Guy, like one of their heads would have gotten impaled on the Road Warriors spikes or something on their way out. But
Yes, and then you see the chicken show up that's always fighting people.
yeah.
Well, what was up with their music? It was like Timu Iron Man by Black Sabbath. Like it was just different enough to where they didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah, I think for a long time they had come out to Iron Man. And so I guess this is the best we could do on this show.
Oh, yeah. Again, in WCW, they got to save their money. So I guess that's what
That's
they
true.
did. Yeah.
That's true. In fact, next on the next pay-per-view, all the entrance music is done on kazoos.
I like
Jim
it.
Ross is just going to stand out there and just. We haven't seen our special guest referee Nikita Koloff in a while, with good reason. His wife had passed away
Aw.
due to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and he had stepped away from the business to recover from the loss. So he's finally coming back around here. So good to see Nikita again.
My heart. That breaks my heart. That's sad.
Yeah, quite young, quite young. But, you know, I honestly thought the crowd was going to be dead for this after what we just saw from Flair and Steamboat and Funk, but they're actually kind of into this. And of course, it's the Road Warriors. So if you have to have a match after that hot championship match, the Road Warriors are a good choice.
Yeah, they're probably the best choice that you could do for this, but I'm not going to understand why they did this. Maybe they just wanted some like unpredictability, like, oh, it's very predictable for that to be at the end, but it's a
Yeah.
risk. And I don't know if it paid off, especially with the Terry Funk stuff. Like that would have been such a good point to just cut it, but they did not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's everything from here on out is questionable. I didn't get it.
Yeah. I don't know, but Nikita messed up as a ref right away from the very beginning because he let the match start with all four wrestlers in the ring. Nope. It
Well,
bugged me.
he's doing it under Russian rules.
Okay. Well, he made up for it in my heart when he ejected Kevin Sullivan for mouthing off to him. Like, he wasn't playing around, and he even threatened to eject Dr. Death Steve Williams later. Because, I mean,
Yeah.
that's me if I'm a ref. If I was a ref, I'd be ejecting everyone. You look at me wrong, you're ejected.
Yeah, right. You end up with one fan in the arena, like,
Right.
yeah. Yeah. Bob Caudle uses the word melee here, but he pronounces it like it's spelled. He says melee.
I questioned my 34 years of life. I thought, have I been pronouncing this wrong my entire life? And then I was like, it's because like there are certain words that I thought were pronounced differently because our parents had such thick hick accents. And so I thought it was like our dad being like a little melee. Like I thought it was like I thought, oh my God, it's actually mealy. So I'm glad that Bob Caudle was wrong, not
Yes,
me.
yes, he was. Lots of physicality here, but lots of double teaming too. Road Warriors hit the Doomsday device on Steve Williams, but Kevin Sullivan and Dan Spivey interfere by pulling Nikita Koloff out of the ring, and they double team Animal. Just everything gets absolutely out of control, and Koloff disqualifies the Varsity Club. And boy, that was like a lot of stuff in a tiny bit of time.
Yeah, I wrote in my notes, quote, I put, it gets very messy toward the end of this match and not in a good way. Were they running out of time or something? Or maybe they just had to
Yeah.
keep it short for the attention span purposes. Like, it wasn't chaotic in the way the Ric Flair Ricky Steamboat match was. It was just not good chaotic. Like
Yeah, it
that.
was just stuff.
Yeah, stuff. Well, as you said, Road Warriors win this match via disqualification, but the Varsity Club retains their championship in 5 minutes and 10 seconds, which makes me think we're going to see this match again. And I'm kind of over this feud at this point.
Yeah, yeah, it's time to move on.
Yeah,
It's
well,
time to
there's
move
really
on.
no post-match content that I remember happening. So, let's just go to our final match of the night.
Sorry, I just freaked out there for a second because we get occasional earthquakes here,
Yes?
and I thought that we just had one, but apparently my wife just got home and I didn't know it, and she was closing the door. But for a second, I was like, "Oh my god, there's an earthquake."
Hey, I would have felt it too. And if you didn't see me react, I don't know. Our mom, like, I will feel a giant earthquake. She lives like 15 houses down from me, and she'll be like, I didn't feel it. And I'm like, how did you not feel that, bro?
Yeah. Well, let's go to the final match of the show, and we will go on home after that. Tag team match for the NWA United States Tag Team Championship. We have the first family, Eddie Gilbert and Rick Steiner, against the Varsity Club, Dan Spivey and Kevin Sullivan. Now, we've seen everybody here recently. We saw Rick Steiner and Kevin Sullivan on Chi-Town Rumble. Eddie Gilbert, we haven't seen since Starrcade 87. But Dan Spivey, let's talk about him. We've seen him before, but it was in the WWF NFL Battle Royal at WrestleMania 2. So we didn't even do a bio on him at the time. So let's
Ah,
get into him real quick. Born on October 14th, 1952, still alive today at the age of 72. And on this pay per view, he was 36. The final pay per view we will see him wrestle on is WWF In Your House 3 with a very cool gimmick that I think they could have done more with. And then that gimmick inspired a later one. We'll talk about it once we
okay.
get there. But real name Daniel Eugene Spivey, trained by Dusty Rhodes after a chance meeting in Tampa, Florida. He unfortunately retired due to injuries in 1995, but he went to work as an alcohol counselor. So that's pretty
Okay.
cool.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that he counsels alcohol. He counsels people. Anyway,
I was about to
this
say,
is
I
the
was like,
fourth time.
huh.
Yeah, this is the fourth time that we've seen this title defended on pay-per-view. Last time was at Starrcade 1988, so it's been a while. And at this point, Gilbert and Steiner have been the champions for 69 days after defeating the Varsity Club on WCW TV. So let's get into the match here real quick. It's a fast one. Gilbert and Steiner, they enter with Missy Hyatt, who we are seeing for the first time on pay-per-view. At the time, Missy Hyatt was married to Eddie Gilbert and had been for 2 years. Unfortunately, they would divorce later this year, but she's going to remain on WCW TV for several years, usually as an interviewer, that sort of thing. Were you aware of Missy Hyatt before this one?
I had heard the name before many times. I wouldn't have known her just seeing her, you know? Like once they announced her, I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, it's Missy Hyatt," but I wouldn't have known her face.
Yeah. Well, ring announcer Gary Michael Capetta calls Missy Hyatt the first lady of wrestling. No, 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 no. That's Miss Elizabeth, and I'll hear no argument.
I mean, I don't know. She been acting shady with her two men.
Okay, fair, fair. That's
Yeah,
very fair. Yeah.
I don't know. A first lady doesn't do such horrible behavior like that. Well, maybe in 2024 she
Well,
does, but
well,
well,
you know, like many matches on the show, the action starts before the bell even rings, and Spivey is on the outside, ramming Steiner's shoulder right into the ring post.
okay, but like, is Dan Spivey like not in trouble for what he just did in the last match, like interfering and pulling the ref out of the ring? Like, how is he here? Like, shouldn't he have been like banned or something?
There will be fallout. We will get to that shortly.
Okay, so then
Shortly.
my next question is, what is this about Rick Steiner being injured? Because they keep talking about it. Obviously, he's not, or he wouldn't have been cleared to wrestle. But oh wait, it's the '80s. Never mind. He could be injured in wrestling.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry that you got your leg amputated this morning. Get out there.
So what was that
Yeah.
angle?
You know what? I'm not sure. I know of what happens after this show, but I'm not sure what they're talking about exactly with the shoulder on this one.
It kind of sounded
But
like it happened like in a previous interaction with them or something.
maybe
Just kind of the
so.
context clues I was using.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's at this point in the show where the crowd does seem like they're done for the night.
I was done, yeah, and, like, even the commentary team starts talking about how they don't have an update on Ric Flair yet, and so you know it's bad when they've gotta go back to talking about the exciting match during the last
Right.
match on the show.
Exactly.
That's bad.
Yeah. Well, after a lot of back and forth action, the referee has his back turned. Rick Steiner hits a clothesline, and Eddie Gilbert covers for the 1-2-3. The first family wins the match and retains their championship in just 6 minutes and 41 seconds. You got much to say about that match?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I was wondering why it was there. I felt like that should have, if it had to happen, it shouldn't have happened on the show. I think it should have like, okay, cut the pay-per-view and then we have a dark match, you know?
Yeah. It kind of seemed like that Road Warriors match you should have slid to before the Flair Steamboat match and then
Yes.
just done this match on TV or something. Like there was no reason to have these two where they were.
Mm-mm.
But the Varsity Club, they grab chairs and continue to attack Steiner and Gilbert outside the ring. Kevin Sullivan pulls Missy Hyatt into the ring and she's cowering in the corner. Eddie then runs towards Kevin Sullivan with a chair, but Sullivan ducks out of the ring. Steiner is still injured on the outside, but for now, the good guys have come out on top. And we go back to Jim Ross and Bob Caudle, who recap the events of the night, and they have two important updates. Are you ready for these very important updates?
I'm ready.
One, there's no update on Ric Flair's condition.
So no update.
So there's
Cool.
one. Yeah. Two, because of all of the shenanigans during their match with the Road Warriors, the Varsity Club has been stripped of the World Tag Team Championship. And they tell us goodnight, and the purple background returns with photos from tonight's show. And that's the end of that one.
They took the championships? Whoop, there it is. There's the punishment. Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So let's see. Let's get into our final thoughts on this one. You want to go or do you want me to go?
I'll go. I really like this show, especially coming off WrestleMania 5, which really felt like it dragged. This show went by so quickly. There were no matches that I felt were too long by any means. I thought the match or the show flowed really well. I feel like they took a lot of maybe advice and made some improvements, both with the ring and the aesthetic of the look and with the wrestling and the music and the talking. They had less filler backstage content that didn't really do anything. So yeah, I really enjoyed the show. Like, I'm really digging the NWA pay-per-views. I know that they were way below WWF back in the day, but I'm really enjoying them. How about you?
Yeah, this might be my favorite WCW NWA show that we've watched yet. I think I enjoyed watching this more than I enjoyed watching WrestleMania 5 last week.
Definitely.
And just top to bottom, this was the first show where I watched it. And because of the in-ring stuff and the production stuff and everything, I found myself thinking, they're finally getting it. They're finally finding a way to actually compete with the WWF. And it would take quite a while, years, until they would get to the same level. but you can see them starting to figure it out. And that's really cool.
Definitely. Well, let's talk about what happened after the pay-per-view. So, because the world tag titles have been vacated, there was an 8-team tournament to crown the new tag team champions, which I'm kind of like, I'm glad they did that instead of just putting them on the Road Warriors, because that would have been
Right.
annoying. Spoiler alert, the tournament was won by Michael Hayes and Jimmy Garvin of the Fabulous Freebirds. We haven't seen Jimmy in a while.
No, we have not, but we will see
No.
him soon.
I figured that. Well, speaking of Michael Hayes, he won the United States Championship on this show, but would only hold it for 15 days before losing it back to my man Lex Luger. I appreciate
Heyo.
that. Ayo. Well, however, at Clash of the Champions 7, Ricky Steamboat defeated Terry Funk by disqualification, and Funk kept attacking Steamboat after the match. Lex Luger ran in to make the save, but then attacked Steamboat, jealous that Steamboat had gotten to appear on the show and angry that Steamboat never offered Luger a shot at the NWA Championship. This turned Lex Luger heel and set up a match for the next pay-per-view against Steamboat. What am I going to do?
Could get interesting. Your alliances will be torn.
My boyfriend versus like my new favorite. What will I do? You know what? As long as it's not Stang, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay, okay.
I will get through this. And speaking of Terry Funk, he continued to feud with Ric Flair, who is now a babyface after the attack we saw earlier on tonight. And so on WCW TV, Terry put Rick out of action with a vicious attack. And fans were afraid that Rick was done for good. But Flair said that he would not be retiring and accepted a title match against Funk at the next pay-per-view. I already can't wait for the next show. Cannot wait.
No, it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, and really that's about it. But before we go, we gotta hit some wrestle stats.
Let's
Some
do it.
wrestle stats.
As far as the most wins, matches, and losses go, no real change there. All the leaders in those are in WWF at this time. Rematches, out of the 185 matches we've watched, 8 of them have been rematches. So that's just 4.32%. And out of those 185 matches, 68 of them have been title matches for 36.76%. And if you dig stats like that, head on over to Twitter, head on over to Blue Sky, head on over to Threads, and on all of them, you can follow at WrestleStats for current stats on every WWE, AEW, TNA, and ROH show that crosses your streaming thing. Michelle, how can they talk to you?
You can talk to me on Twitter at Michelle Tater. I'm on some other social media, but that's really the one I pay most attention to because it sends me my little notifications. It's just easy, you know? No one can send me like 5 paragraphs of stuff. You got 180 characters to talk to me, so I like it. You can also contact us at Wrestle Recap on Twitter. That's Blue Sky, Threads, everything. And you might talk to me, you might talk to Justin. You never know. If you have a secret about Justin, make sure it's me that you're talking to first, okay?
What? Wait, are you talking in code? Are you trying to get something like I'm not supposed to understand this? Or
Yes.
great, that means no.
Well, what do we got going on next week, Justin?
Next week, we are sticking with NWA WCW for Great American Bash 1989. Here's a quick breakdown. 9 matches, 3 title matches, a double ring battle royal, our first ever War Games match, and a street fight tuxedo match.
Bro, NWA is picking it up.
I have only one thing to say.
What?
Oh, baby, oh, baby, oh, baby.